of freedom. The tools stand as symbols of the invisible spirit, keeping the mind, body, and limbs in full activity. Absence of stereotyped technique as the substance means to be total and free. All lines and movements are the function. Non-attachment as the foundation is man's original nature. In its ordinary process, thought moves forward without halting. Past, present, and future thoughts continue as an unbroken stream. Absence of thought as the doctrine means not to be carried away by thought in the process of thought, not to be defined by external objects, to be in thought yet devoid of thought. True thusness is the substance of thought, and thought is the function of true thusness. To think of thusness, to define it in thought, is to defile it. Bring the mind into sharp focus and make it alert so that it can immediately intuit truth, which is everywhere. The mind must be emancipated from old habits, prejudices, restrictive thought processes, and even ordinary thought itself. Scratch away all the dirt your being has accumulated and reveal reality in its isness, or in its suchness, or in its nakedness, which corresponds to the Buddhist concept of emptiness. Empty your cup so that it may be filled. Become devoid to gain totality. Organized despair. In the long history of martial arts, the instinct to follow and imitate seems to be inherent in most martial artists, instructors and students alike. This is partly due to human tendency, and partly because of the steep traditions behind multiple patterns of style. Consequently, to find a refreshing original master teacher is a rarity. The need for a pointer of the way echoes. Each man belongs to a style which claims to possess truth to the exclusion of all other styles. These styles become institutes with their explanations of the way, dissecting and isolating the harmony of firmness and gentleness, establishing rhythmic forms as the particular state of their techniques. Instead of facing combat in its suchness, then, most systems of martial art accumulate a fancy mess that distorts and cramps their practitioners and distracts them from the actual reality of combat, which is simple and direct. Instead of going immediately to the heart of things, flowery forms organize despair, and artificial techniques are ritualistically practiced to simulate actual combat. Thus, instead of being in combat, these practitioners are doing something about combat. Worse still, super mental power and spiritual this and spiritual that are desperately incorporated until these practitioners drift further and further into mystery and abstraction. All such things are futile attempts to arrest and fix the ever-changing movements in combat, and to dissect and analyze them like a corpse. When you get down to it, real combat is not fixed and is very much alive. The fancy mess, a form of paralysis, solidifies and conditions what was once fluid. And when you look at it realistically, it is nothing but a blind devotion to the systematic uselessness of practicing routines or stunts that lead nowhere. When real feeling occurs, such as anger or fear, can the stylist express himself with the classical method? Or is he merely listening to his own screams and yells? Is he a living, expressive human being, or merely a patternized mechanical robot? Is he an entity capable of flowing with external circumstances? Or is he resisting with his set of chosen patterns? Is his chosen pattern forming a screw between him and the opponent and preventing a total and fresh relationship? Stylists, instead of looking directly into the fact, cling to forms and go on entangling themselves further and further, only putting themselves into an inextricable snare. They do not see it in its suchness because their indoctrination is crooked and twisted. Discipline must conform to the nature of things in their suchness. Maturity does not mean to become a captive of conceptualization. It is the realization of what lies in our inmost selves. When there is freedom from mechanical conditioning, there is simplicity. Life is a relationship to the whole. The man who is clear and simple does not choose. What is. Action based on an idea is obviously the action of choice, and such action is not liberating. On the contrary, it creates further resistance, further conflict. Assume pliable awareness. Relationship is understanding. It is a process of self-revelation. Relationship is the mirror in which you discover yourself. To be is to be related. Set patterns incapable of adaptability or pliability only offer a better cage. Truth is outside of all patterns. Forms are vain repetitions which offer an orderly and beautiful escape from self-knowledge with an alive opponent. Accumulation is self-enclosing resistance, and only techniques strengthen the resistance. The classical man is just a bundle of routine ideas and traditions. When he acts, he is translating every living moment in terms of the old. Knowledge is fixed in time, whereas knowing is continual. Knowledge comes from a source, from an accumulation, from a conclusion, while knowing is a movement. The additive process is merely a cultivation of memory which becomes mechanical. Learning is never cumulative. It is a movement of knowing which has no beginning and no end. In martial arts cultivation, there must be a sense of freedom. A conditioned mind is never a free mind. Conditioning limits a person within the framework of a particular system. To express yourself in freedom, you must die to everything of yesterday. From the old, you derive security. From the new, you gain the flow. To realize freedom, the mind has to learn to look at life, which is a vast movement without the bondage of time. For freedom lies beyond the field of consciousness. Watch, but don't stop and interpret, I am free. Then you're living in a memory of something that has gone. To understand and live now, everything of yesterday must die. Freedom from knowing is death, then you are living. Die inwardly of pro and con. There's no such thing as doing right or wrong when there is freedom. When one is not expressing himself, he is not free. Thus he begins to struggle, and the struggle breeds methodical routine. Soon he is doing his methodical routine as response rather than responding to what is. The fighter is to always be single-minded with one object in view, to fight, looking neither backward nor sideways. He must get rid of obstructions to his forward movement, emotionally, physically, or intellectually. One can function freely and totally if he is beyond system. The man who is really serious with the urge to find out what truth is has no style at all. He lives only in what is. If you want to understand the truth in martial arts, to see any opponent clearly, you must throw away the notion of styles or school, prejudices, likes and dislikes, and so forth. Then your mind will cease all conflict and come to rest. In this silence, you will see totally and freshly. If any style teaches you a method of fighting, then you might be able to fight according to the limit of that method, but that is not actually fighting. If you meet the unconventional attack, such as one delivered with broken rhythm, with your chosen patterns of rhythmical classical blocks, your defense and counterattack will always be lacking pliability and aliveness. If you follow the classical pattern, you are understanding the routine, the tradition, the shadow. You are not understanding yourself. How can one respond to the totality with a partial fragmentary pattern? Mere repetition of rhythmic, calculated movement robs combat movement of its aliveness and isness, its reality. Accumulation of forms, just one more mortification of conditioning, becomes an anchor that holds and ties down. It leads only one way down. Form is the cultivation of resistance. It is the exclusive drilling of a pattern of choice moves. Instead of creating resistance, enter straight into the movement as it arises. Do not condemn or condone. Choiceless awareness leads to reconciliation with the opponent in a total understanding of what is. Once conditioned in a partialized method, once isolated in an enclosing pattern, the practitioner faces his opponent through a screen of resistance. he is performing his stylized blocks and listening to his own screaming and not seeing what the opponent is really doing. We are those kata. We are those classical blocks and thrusts, so heavily conditioned are we by them. To fit in with an opponent, one needs direct perception. There is no direct perception where there is a resistance, a "this is the only way" attitude. Having totality means being capable of following what is, because what is constantly moving and constantly changing. If one is anchored to a particular view, one will not be able to follow the swift movement of what is. Whatever one's opinion of hooking and swinging as part of one's style, there cannot be the least argument to acquiring perfect defenses against it. Indeed, nearly all natural fighters use it. As for the martial artist, it adds versatility to his attack. He must be able to hit from wherever his hand is. But in classical styles, system becomes more important than the man. The classical man functions with the pattern of a style. How can there be methods and systems to arrive at something that is living? To that which is static, fixed, dead, there can be a way, a definite path, but not to that which is living. Do not reduce reality to a static thing and then invent methods to reach it. Truth is relationship with the opponent, constantly moving, living, never static. Truth has no path. Truth is living and therefore changing. It has no resting place, no form, no organized institution, no philosophy. When you see that, you will understand that this living thing is also what you are. You cannot express and be alive through static, put-together form, through stylized movement. Classical forms dull your creativity, condition and freeze your sense of freedom. You no longer be, but merely do, without sensitivity. Just as yellow leaves may be gold coins to stop the crying children, thus the so-called secret moves and contorted postures appease the unknowledgeable martial artist. This does not mean to do nothing at all, but only to have no deliberate mind in whatever one does. Do not have a mind that selects or rejects. To be without deliberate mind is to hang no thoughts. Acceptance, denial, and conviction prevent understanding. Let your mind move together with another's in understanding with sensitivity. Then there is a possibility of real communication. To understand one another, there must be a state of choiceless awareness, where there is no sense of comparison or condemnation, no waiting for further development of discussion in order to agree or disagree. Above all, don't start from a conclusion. Understand the freedom from the conformity of styles. Free yourself by observing closely what you normally practice. Do not condemn or approve, merely observe. When you are uninfluenced, when you die to the conditioning of classical responses, then you will know awareness and see things totally fresh, totally new. Awareness is without choice, without demand, without anxiety. In that state of mind, there is perception. Perception alone will resolve all our problems. Understanding requires not just a moment of perception, but a continuous awareness, a continuous state of inquiry without conclusion. To understand combat, one must approach it in a very simple and direct manner. Understanding comes about through feeling, from moment to moment, in the mirror of relationship. Understanding oneself happens through a process of relationships and not through isolation. To know oneself is to study oneself in action with another person. To understand the actual requires awareness, an alert and totally free mind. Effort within the mind further limits the mind, because effort implies struggle toward a goal. And when you have a goal, a purpose, an end in view, you have placed a limit on the mind. This evening, I see something totally new, and that newness is experienced by the mind. But tomorrow, that experience becomes mechanical if I try to repeat the sensation, the pleasure of it. The description is never real. What is real is seeing the truth instantaneously, because truth has no tomorrow. We shall find the truth when we examine the problem. The problem is never apart from the answer. The problem is the answer. Understanding the problem dissolves the problem. Observe what is with undivided awareness. True thusness is without defiling thought. It cannot be known through conception and thought. Thinking is not freedom. All thought is partial. It can never be total. Thought is the response of memory, and memory is always partial, because memory is the result of experience. So, thought is the reaction of a mind conditioned by experience. Know the emptiness and tranquility of your mind. Be empty. Have no style or form for the opponent to work on. The mind is originally without activity. The way is always without thought. Insight is realizing that one's original nature is not created. There will be calmness, tranquility, when one is free from external objects and is not perturbed. Being tranquil means not having any illusions or delusions of thusness. There is no thought, only thusness. What is? Thusness does not move, but its motion and function are inexhaustible. To meditate means to realize the imperturbability of one's original nature. Surely, meditation can never be a process of concentration, because the highest form of thinking is negation. Negation is a state in which there is neither the positive nor its reaction as the negative. It is a state of complete emptiness. Concentration is a form of exclusion. And where there is exclusion, there is a thinker who excludes. It is the thinker, the excluder, the one who concentrates, who creates contradiction. Because he forms a center from which there is distraction. There is a state of action without the actor, a state of experiencing without the experiencer or the experience. It is a state bound and weighted down by the classical mess, classical concentration that focuses on one thing and excludes all others. And awareness, which is total and excludes nothing, are states of the mind that can be understood only by objective, non-prejudiced observation. Awareness has no frontier. It is a gifting of your whole being without exclusion. Concentration is a narrowing down of the mind. But we are concerned with the total process of living, and to concentrate exclusively on any particular aspect of life belittles life. The moment has not yesterday or tomorrow. It is not the result of thought, and therefore has not time. When in a split second your life is threatened, do you say, let me make sure my hand is on my hip and my style is the style? When your life is in danger, do you argue about the method you will adhere to while saving yourself? Why the duality? A so-called martial artist is the result of 3,000 years of propaganda and conditioning. Why do individuals depend on thousands of years of propaganda? They may preach softness as the ideal to firmness, but when what is hits, what happens? Ideals, principles, that what should be leads to hypocrisy. Because one does not want to be disturbed, to be made uncertain, he establishes a pattern of conduct, of thought, a pattern of relationships to man. He then becomes a slave to the pattern and takes the pattern to be the real thing. Agreeing to certain patterns of movement to secure the participants within the governing rules might be good for sports like boxing or basketball, but the success of Jeet Kune Do lies in its freedom, both to use technique and to dispense with it. The second-hand artist, blindly following his sensei or sifu, accepts his pattern. As a result, his action, and more importantly, his thinking, become mechanical. His responses become automatic, according to set patterns, making him narrow and limited. Self-expression is total, immediate, without conception of time, and you can only express that if you are free, physically and mentally, from fragmentation. The facts of Jeet Kune Do. 1. The economy-type structure in attack and defense. Attack, the alive leads. Defense, sticking hands. 2. The versatile and artless, artful, total, kicking and striking weapons. 3. The broken rhythm, the half beat, and the 1 or 3.5 beat, Jeet Kune Do's rhythm in attack and counter. 4. Weight training and scientific supplementary training plus all-around fitness. 5. The JTD direct movement in attacks and counters, flowing from where it is without repositioning. 6. The shifty body and light footwork. 7. The uncrispy stuff and unassuming attacking tactics. 8. Strong in fighting. A. Shifty blasting. B. Throwing. C. Grappling. D. Immobilizations. 9. All-out sparring and the actual contact training on moving targets. 10. The sturdy tools through continuous sharpening. 11. Individual expression rather than mass product. Aliveness rather than classicalism. True relationship. 12. Total rather than partial in structure. 13. The training of continuity of expressive self behind physical movements. 14. Loose power and powerful thrust drive as a whole. A springy looseness, but not a physically lax body. Also, a pliable mental awareness. 15. The constant flow, straight movement and curved movement combined, up and down, curved left and right, side steps, bobbing and weaving, hand circles. 16. Well-balanced posture of exertion during movement, constantly. Continuity between near or out and near or loose. The formless form. I hope martial artists are more interested in the root of martial arts and not the different decorative branches, flowers or leaves. It is futile to argue as to which single leaf, which design of branches or which attractive flower you like. When you understand the root, you understand all its blossoming. Please do not be concerned with soft versus firm, kicking versus striking, grappling versus hitting and kicking, long-range fighting versus infighting. There is no such thing as this is better than that. Should there be one thing we must guard against, let it be partiality that robs us of our pristine wholeness and makes us lose unity in the midst of duality. The height of cultivation runs to simplicity. Halfway cultivation runs to ornamentation. In combative arts, it has been the problem of ripening. This ripening is the progressive integration of the individual with his being, his essence. This is possible only through self-exploration in free expression and not in imitative repetition of an imposed pattern of movement. There are styles that favor straight lines, then there are styles that favor curved lines and circles. Styles that cling to one partial aspect of combat are in bondage. Jeet Kune Do is a technique for acquiring liberty. It is a work of enlightenment. Art is never decoration or embellishment. A choice method, however exacting, fixes its practitioners in a pattern. Combat is never fixed and is changing from moment to moment. Working in patterns is basically a practice of resistance. Such practice leads to cockiness. Understanding is not possible, and its adherents are never free. The way of combat is not based on personal choice and fancies. Truth in the way of combat is perceived from moment to moment, and only when there is awareness without condemnation, justification, or any form of identification. Jeet Kune Do favors formlessness so that it can assume all forms, and since it has no style, Jeet Kune Do fits in with all styles. As a result, Jeet Kune Do uses all ways and is bound by none, and likewise uses any technique or means which serves its end. In this art, efficiency is anything that scores. The height of cultivation runs to simplicity. Halfway cultivation runs to ornamentation. It is not difficult to trim and hack off the non-essentials in outward physical structure. However, to shun away, to minimize inwardly is another matter. You cannot see a street fight in its totality, observing it from the viewpoint of a boxer, a kung fu man, a karateka, a wrestler, a judo man, and so forth. You can see clearly only when style does not interfere. You then see it without like or dislike. You simply see, and what you see is the whole. and not the partial. There is what is only when there is no comparing, and to live with what is to be peaceful. Fighting is not something dictated by your conditioning as a kung fu man, a karate man, a judo man, or whatnot. And seeking the opposite of a system is to enter another conditioning. A Jeet Kune Do man faces reality and not crystallization of form. A tool is a tool of formless form. No abode means that the ultimate source of all things is beyond human understanding, beyond the categories of time and space. As it thus transcends all modes of relativity, it is called having no abode, and its qualities are applicable. The fighter who has no abode is no more himself. He moves as a kind of automaton. He has given himself up to an influence outside his everyday consciousness, which is not other than his own deeply buried unconscious, whose presence he was never aware of. Expression is not developed through the practice of form, yet form is a part of expression. The greater expression is not found in the lesser expression, but the lesser is found within the greater. Having no form, then, does not mean having no form. Having no form evolves from having form. No form is the higher individual expression. No cultivation does not really mean the absence of any kind of cultivation. What it signifies is a cultivation by means of non-cultivation. To practice cultivation through cultivation is to act with conscious mind. That is to say, to practice assertive activity. Do not deny the classical approach simply as a reaction, for you will have created another pattern and trapped yourself there. The physically bound go for puffing and straining and miss the delicate way. The intellectually bound go for idealism and exotics and lack efficiency and actually seeing into realities. Many a martial artist likes more, likes something different, not knowing the truth, and the way is exhibited in the simple, everyday movements because it is here they miss it. If there's any secret, it is missed by seeking. Preliminary. To become different from what we are, we must have some awareness of what we are. Training. Training is one of the most neglected phases of athletics. Too much time is given to the development of skill and too little to the development of the individual for participation. Training deals not with an object, but with the human spirit and human emotions. It takes intellect and judgment to handle such delicate qualities as these. Training is the psychological and physiological conditioning of an individual preparing for intense neural and muscular reaction. It implies discipline of the mind and power and endurance of the body. It means skill. It is all these things working together in harmony. Training means not only knowledge of the things which will build the body, but also knowledge of the things which will tear down or injure the body. Improper training will result in injuries. Training, then, is concerned with the prevention of injuries as well as first aid to injuries. Fitness program. 1. Alternate splits. 2. Push-ups. 3. Running in place. 4. Shoulder circling. 5. High kicks. 6. Deep knee bends. 7. Side kick raises. 8. Twisting sit-ups. 9. Waist twisting. 10. Leg raises. 11. Forward bends. Everyday opportunities for exercises. Take a walk whenever you can, like parking the car a few blocks away from your destination. Avoid taking the elevator. Climb the stairs instead. Cultivate your quiet awareness by imagining an opponent attacking you while you are sitting, standing, or lying down, etc. And counter that attack with various moves. Simple moves are the best. Practice your balance by standing on one foot to put your clothes or shoes on, or simply stand on one foot whenever you choose. Supplementary training. 1. Sequence training. Sequence 1. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 1. Rope jumping. 2. Forward bend. 3. Cat stretch. 4. Jumping jack. 5. Squat. 6. High kick. Sequence 2. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. 1. Groin stretch. 2. Side leg raise. 3. Jumping squat. 4. Shoulder circling. 5. Alternate splits. 6. Leg stretch. 2. Forearm or waist. Sequence 1, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 1. Waist twisting. 2. Palm up curl. 3. Roman chair. 4. Knee drawing. 5. Side bend. 6. Palm down curl. Sequence 2, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. 1. Leg raises. 2. Reverse curl. 3. Sit up twist. 4. Leverage bar twist. 5. Alternate leg raise. 6. Wrist roller. 3. Power training. 1. Press lockout. 2. Press start. 3. Rise on toes. 4. Pull. 5. Squat. 6. Shrug. 7. Deadlift. 8. Quarter squat. 9. Frog kick. Warming up. Warming up is a process which elicits the acute physiological changes that prepare the organism for strenuous physical performance. Important. To gain the greatest benefit from the warming up procedure, the exercises should imitate as closely as possible the movements which are to be used in the event. Warming up reduces the viscosity of a muscle, its resistance to its own movement. It improves performance and prevents injury in vigorous activities by 2 essential means. 1. A rehearsal of the skill before competition commences fixes in the athlete's neuromuscular coordinating system the exact nature of the impending task. It also heightens his kinesthetic senses. 2. The rise in body temperature facilitates the biochemical reactions supplying energy for muscular contractions. Elevated body temperature also shortens the periods of muscular relaxation and aids in reducing stiffness. As a result of these 2 processes, there is an improvement in accuracy, strength, and speed of movement, and an increase in tissue elasticity, which lessens the liability to injury. No fighter uses his leg violently until he warms it up carefully. The same principle is equally applicable to any muscles that are to be used so vigorously. The duration of the warm-up period varies with the event. In ballet, the dancers spend 2 hours before the performance, commencing with very light movements and gradually increasing the intensity and range of motions until the moment before their appearance. The athlete of more advanced years tends to warm up more slowly and for a longer time. This fact may be due to greater need, or it may be because an athlete tends to get smarter as he gets older. On guard position. Proper posture is a matter of effective interior organization of the body, which can be achieved only by long and well-disciplined practice. The on-guard position is that position most favorable to the mechanical execution of all the total techniques and skills. It allows complete relaxation, yet at the same time gives a muscle tonus most favorable to quick reaction time. A correct posture does 3 things. 1. It ensures for the body and its several members a position which is most mechanically favorable for the next move. 2. It enables one to maintain a poker body, a body that reveals no more of its intended movements than a poker face reveals the cards of a player. 3. It puts the body under that particular tension or degree of tonus which will be most favorable to quick reaction and high coordination. The position adopted should be the one found to give maximum ease and relaxation, combined with smoothness of movement at all times. The on-guard position must, above all, be a proper spiritual attitude, stance. The head. In Western boxing, the head is treated as if it were a part of the trunk, generally with no independent action of its own. In closing fighting, it should be carried vertically, with the point of the chin pinned to the collarbone and the side of the chin held against the inside of the lead shoulder. The chin does not go all the way down to meet the shoulder, nor does the shoulder come all the way up. They meet halfway. The shoulder is raised an inch or two, and the chin is dropped an inch or two. The point of the chin is not tucked into the lead shoulder except when angling the head back in an extreme defensive position. Tucking the point of the chin into the lead shoulder turns the neck into an unnatural position, takes away the support of the muscles, and prevents straight bone alignment. It also tenses the lead shoulder and arm, preventing free action and causing fatigue. With the chin dropped and pinned tight to the collarbone, the muscles and bone structure are in the best possible alignment, and only the top of the head is presented to the opponent, making it impossible to be hit on the point of the chin. The lead arm and hand. The shoulder is loose and the hand is held slightly lower, relaxed and ready for attacking. The entire arm and shoulder must be loose and relaxed so that the fighter will be able to snap or whip out the leading rapier-like thrusts. The hand position changes frequently from the low back fist position to about shoulder height and as far to the outside of the lead shoulder as possible without raising the elbow. Keep the lead hand always in some subtle motion for easier initiation. The preference for a low line position with absence of an extended lead is because most people are weak in low line defense. Also, with the absence of an extended lead, many preparations for same are useless. The head now becomes a moving target, augmented by sensitive distance. So, if the opponent's offensive game is based on these preparatory movements, he is severely handicapped and partly checked. The elongated guard can prove a dangerous weakness in both attacks and defense. In attacks, 1. He necessitates withdrawing the arm, thus telegraphing, unlike a coil spring. 2. Needs preparation for hooks. In defense, 1. Uncovers the lead side of the body. 2. The opponent knows where it is and can maneuver all around it. 3. An extended hand offers itself for immobilization. Thus, adopt the recommended position to keep the potentialities of your lead reach a secret. The rear arm and hand. The rear elbow is held down and in front of the short wrist. The rear forearm covers the solar plexus. The open palm of the rear hand faces the opponent and is positioned between the opponent and the rear shoulder, in line with the lead shoulder. The rear hand may also rest lightly upon the body. The arm should be relaxed and easy, ready to attack or defend. Either or both hands may perform a circular weaving motion. The important thing is to keep them moving, but retain cover. The trunk. The position of the trunk is controlled primarily by the position of the leading foot and leg. If the leading foot and leg are in the correct position, the trunk automatically assumes the proper position. The one important thing about the trunk is that it should form a straight line with the leading leg. As the leading foot and leg are turned inward, the body rotates in the same direction, which presents a narrow target to the opponent. If, however, the leading foot and leg are rotated outward, the body is squared toward the opponent, presenting a large target. For defensive purposes, the narrow target is advantageous, while the square position lends itself better to some attack. Stance. The semi-crouch stance is the perfect stance for fighting because you are braced, but are at all times in a comfortably balanced position from which you can attack, counter, or defend without preliminary movement. This stance may be referred to as the small basic bending stance. Small means appropriateness, not overextended steps, nor insufficient length of stepping. Small quick steps for speed and controlled balance in giving gap to opponent, not distinctive enough for opponent to time. Face it, a stage or interval in a development or cycle, not still or static, but constantly changing. Bend knee ensures readiness in motion at all times. The pattern of bend knees, crouched trunk, slightly forward center of gravity, and partially flexed arm is characteristic of readiness in many sports. At any time, the lead foot should be hampered as little as possible. If too much weight is on it, it will be necessary to transfer that weight to the rear leg before starting the attack. This movement involves a delay and also warns the opponent. Fundamental positioning is the foundation. Fundamental suggests simple but effective organization of oneself mentally and physically. ease, comfort, and body feel during maintenance of the spiritual stance. Simplicity, movement with no strain. Being neutral has no commitment in directional course or exertion. Positioning suggests 1. A state of movement as opposed to a static position, an established form or attitude. 2. Repositioning, especially with small phasic movement, resulting in further disorganization of the opponent's sustained watchfulness. 3. Adaptation to opponent's watchfulness. Springiness and alertness of footwork is the key theme. The rear heel is raised and cocked, ever ready to pull the trigger into action. You are never set or tensed, but are ready and flexible. The primary purpose of JKD is kicking, hitting, and applying bodily force. Therefore, the use of the on-guard position is to obtain the most favorable position for the above mentioned. To hit or to kick effectively, it is necessary to shift weight constantly from one leg to the other. This means perfect control of body balance. Balance is the most important consideration in the on-guard position. Naturalness means easily and comfortably, so all muscles can act with the greatest speed and ease. Stand loosely and lightly. Avoid tension and muscular contraction. Distinguish between drilling comfort and personal comfort. Thus, you will both guard and hit with more speed, precision, and power. You are all back, elbows, forearms, fist, and forehead. You look more on the order of a cat with its back hunched up and ready to spring, except that you are relaxed. Your opponent hasn't much to shoot at. Your chin is tucked between your shoulders. Your elbows protect your sides. You are partially contracted in the middle. The on-guard position is the safest position. Thus, 1. Use tools that will least deviate from the on-guard position. 2. Practice instantaneous explosion from neutrality and retain neutrality in commitment, all into one constant smooth flow. 3. Practice constantly to apply all tools from the on-guard position and return to the on-guard position with all possible rapidity. Shorten the gap time between position and execution more and more. Ease, speed, relay. Above all, do not lay down restricting rules. Progressive weapons charts. Because of their advanced position, your leading foot and hand constitute at least 80% of all kicking and striking. They are halfway to the target before starting. It is important that they can strike with speed and power singly or in combination. Also, they must be reinforced by equal precision of the rear foot and hand. 8 basic defense positions, left and right stances. Like the cobra, you remain coiled in a loose but compact position, and your strike should be felt before it's seen. Quality. It's not daily increase but daily decrease. Hack away the unessential. Coordination. Coordination is by all means one of the most important considerations in any study of proficiency in sports and athletics. Coordination is the quality which enables the individual to integrate all the powers and capacities of his whole organism into an effective doing of an act. Before movements can take place, there must be a change of muscular tension on both sides of the joints to be moved. The effectiveness of this muscular teamwork is one of the factors which determine limits of speed, endurance, power, agility, and accuracy in all athletic performances. In static or slow resistive activities, such as executing a handstand or supporting a heavy barbell, the muscles on both sides of the joints act strongly to fix the body in the desired position. When rapid motion takes place, as in running or throwing, the muscles closing the joints shorten and those on the opposite side lengthen to permit the movement. There is still tension on both sides, but on the lengthening side, it is considerably reduced. Any excessive tension in the lengthening muscles acts as a brake and thereby slows and weakens the action. Such antagonistic tension increases the energy cost of muscular work, resulting in early fatigue. When a new task with a demand that is different in the intensity of load, rate, repetition, or duration is undertaken, an entirely new pattern of neurophysiological adjustment must be acquired. Thus, the fatigue experienced in new activities is not just from using different muscles, but is also due to the breaking caused by improper coordination. The outstanding characteristic of the expert athlete is his ease of movement, even during maximal effort. The novice is characterized by his tenseness. wasted motion and excess effort. That rare person, the natural athlete, seems to be endowed with the ability to undertake any sport activity, whether he is experienced in it or not, with ease. The ease is his ability to perform with minimal antagonistic tension. It is more present in some athletes than in others, but can be improved by all. The fighter whose movements seem awkward, who never seems to find the proper distance, is always in time, never outguesses his opponent, and always gives warning of his intentions before they become serious, is suffering chiefly from a lack of coordination. The well-coordinated fighter does everything smoothly and gracefully. He seems to glide in and out of distance with a minimum of effort and a maximum of deception. His timing is usually good because his own movements are so rhythmical, they tend to establish complementary rhythm on the part of his opponent, a rhythm he can break to his own advantage because of his perfect control of his own muscles. He seems to outguess his opponent because he usually takes the initiative and to a large extent forces the reactions of his opponent. Above all, he makes his movements with a purpose rather than with a daunting hope because he has confidence in himself. Muscles have no power to guide themselves, but the manner in which they act and consequently the effectiveness of our performances depends absolutely on how the nervous system guides them. Thus, a badly executed move is the result of impulses sent to the wrong muscles by the nervous system, or sent a fraction or 2 seconds too soon, in proper sequence, or in poorly apportioned intensity. Well-executed movement means the nervous system has been trained to the point where it sends impulses to certain muscles, causing these muscles to contract at exactly the proper fraction of a second. At the same time, impulses to the antagonistic muscles are shut off, allowing those muscles to relax. Properly coordinated impulses surge with just the exact intensity required, and they stop at the exact fraction of a second when they are no longer needed. Therefore, learning coordination is a matter of training the nervous system, and not a question of training muscles. The transition from totally uncoordinated muscular effort to skill of the highest perfection is a process of developing the connections in the nervous system. Psychologists and biologists tell us that the billions of elements in the nervous system are not in direct connection with each other, but that the fibers of one nerve cell intertwine with those of other cells in such close proximity that impulses can pass from one to others by a process of induction. This point at which the impulse passes from one nerve cell to another is called the synapse. The synapse theory explains why the baby who displayed totally uncoordinated responses at the sight of a ball eventually becomes the big league ball player. Training for skill, coordination, is purely a matter of forming proper connections in the nervous system through practice, precision practice. Each performance of an act strengthens the connections involved and makes the next performance easier, more certain, and more readily done. Likewise, disuse tends to weaken any pathways that have been formed and makes doing of the act more difficult and uncertain. Constant exercises. Thus, we can attain skill only by actually doing the thing we are trying to learn. We learn solely by doing or reacting. When learning to form pathways, be sure the actions are the most economical as well as the most efficient use of energy and motion. To become a champion requires a condition of readiness that causes the individual to approach with pleasure even the most tedious practice session. The more ready the person is to respond to a stimulus, the more satisfaction he finds in the response. And the more unready he is, the more annoying he finds it to be forced to act. Important. Do not practice fine skilled movements after you are tired, for you will begin to substitute gross motions for finer ones and generalized efforts for specific ones. Remember, wrong movements tend to supervene and the athlete's progress is set back. Thus, the athlete practices fine skills only while he is fresh. When he becomes fatigued, he shifts to to task employing gross movements designed principally to develop endurance. Precision. Precision of movement means accuracy, and generally is used in the sense of exactness in the projection of a force. Precision is made up of controlled body movements. These movements should eventually be executed with a minimum amount of strength and exertion while still achieving the desired result. Precision can only be attained through a considerable amount of practice and training on the part of both the beginner and the experienced fighter. Skill is best acquired by learning accuracy and precision first with speed, before the skill act is attempted with much power and speed. A mirror is a definite aid to achieving precision by providing a constant check on posture, hand position, and technical movement. Power. To be accurate, the striking or throwing skill should be executed from a body base that possesses enough strength to maintain adequate balance during the action. To appropriately incorporate momentum with mechanical advantage, neural impulses are sent to the working muscle to bring a sufficient number of fibers into action at precisely the right time, while impulses to the antagonistic muscles are reduced to lessen the resistance, all acting to improve efficiency and to make the best use of available power. When approaching an unfamiliar task, the athlete tends to overmobilize his muscular forces, exerting more effort than required. This is a lack of knowledge by the reflective neuromuscular coordinating system. A powerful athlete is not a strong athlete, but one who can exert his strength quickly. Since power equals force times speed, if the athlete learns to make faster movements, he increases his power, even though the contractile pulling strength of his muscles remains unchanged. Thus, a smaller man who can swing faster may hit as hard or as far as the heavier man who swings slowly. The athlete who is building muscles through weight training should be very sure to work adequately on speed and flexibility at the same time. Combined with adequate speed, flexibility, and endurance, high levels of strength lead to excellence in most sports. In combat, without the prior attributes, a strong man will be like the bull with its colossal strength, futilely pursuing the matador, or like a low-geared truck chasing a rabbit. Endurance. Endurance is developed by hard and continuous exercise which exceeds the steady physiological state and produces near exhaustion temporarily. Considerable respiratory and muscular distress should develop. The best form of endurance exercise is the performance of the event. Of course, running and shadowboxing are necessary supplementary endurance exercises, but you should do them with broken rhythm, broken neurophysiological adjustment. Most beginning athletes are unwilling to drive themselves hard enough. They should punish themselves and then rest adequately, only to increase the output of effort after the rest. Long hours of work made up of many short, high-speed efforts, interspersed with periods of milder activity seem to be the best endurance training procedure. 4 hypotheses for extra endurance sports. Endurance can be acquired through a rather extensive succession of sprints interspersed with easier running. One trains for an endurance that is specific to a particular rate of speed. Extreme endurance training should include much more and longer work than what has been customary. Such Spartan training is for the champ. An occasional change of pace should be included that employs different movements and, to some degree, different muscle fibers. Exercises for endurance development should be gradually and carefully increased. 6 weeks seem to be a scanty minimum for sports that require considerable endurance, and 6 weeks are really only the beginning. The peak of achievement will be approached in years. Endurance is lost rapidly if one ceases to work at its maintenance. Balance. Balance is the all-important factor in a fighter's attitude or stance. Without balance at all times, he can never be effective. Balance is achieved only through correct body alignment. The feet, the legs, the trunk, the head are all important in creating and maintaining a balanced position. They are the vehicles of body force. Keeping the feet in proper relation to each other as well as to the body helps to maintain correct body alignment. Too wide a stance prevents proper alignment, destroying the purpose of balance but obtaining solidarity and power at the cost of speed and efficient movement. A short stance prevents balance as it does not give a basis from which to work. Speed results, but at a loss of power and balance. The secret of a proper balance in the proper stance is to keep the feet always directly under the body, which means they should be a medium distance apart. Either the weight is balanced over both legs, or, as in Western boxing, it is carried slightly forward over the lead leg. The lead leg is fairly straight, and the knee is loose and easy, not locked. The lead side of the body forms a straight line from the lead heel to the tip of the lead shoulder. This position permits relaxation, speed, balance, and easy movement, as well as a mechanical advantage, making possible tremendous power. In general, for athletic contests, a preparatory stance will include a coiled or semi-crouched posture and a lowered forward center of gravity. With the bending of the forward knee, the center of gravity moves forward a little. For general readiness, the lead heel usually remains just touching the ground even after the knees bend. Slight ground contact of the heel aids in balance and decreases tension. Always leave the space of a natural step between your feet. By doing so, you are braced and never standing on just one point. By not getting your feet crossed, you are not likely to be pushed off balance or knocked down because of bad footwork. Postural habits. 1. Lower the center of gravity. 2. Keep a base with lateral width. 3. Keep weight on the balls of the feet. 4. Knees are rarely straightened, even in running. 5. A center of gravity kept under delicate and rapid motion are characteristic habits of athletes in games that require sudden and frequent changes of direction. These postural habits are characteristics of readiness in motion as well as static posture. The athlete displays these static and phasic motor habits before and immediately after each act in preparation for the next act. When sudden movement may be necessary, the good athlete is rarely caught with a straight knee or with other completely straightened joint angles. From such bent knee preparatory running has come the well-known statement, the good athlete always runs as if his pants need pressing. Balance is the control of one's center of gravity, plus the control and utilization of body slants and unstable equilibrium, hence gravity pull, to facilitate movement. So, balance might mean being able to throw one's center of gravity beyond the base of support, chase it, and never let it get away. The short step and the glide, as contrasted with the hop or cross step, are devices to keep the center of gravity. When it is necessary to move rapidly, the good man takes small enough steps so that his center of gravity is rarely out of control. Body slants in a preparatory position are counterbalanced with an extended arm, leg, or both. One should seek good balance in motion and not in stillness. The fighter's center of gravity changes constantly, varying with his own actions and those of his opponent. The missing of a blow or intended kick means momentary loss of balance. That is why in stillness, the counterfighter usually has the advantage, but the attacker will be fairly safe by adopting the small phasic and knee stance. Practice counters the moment your opponent loses his balance, especially if he is the stand-up type. Balance must be under control at all times, so that the fighter will not lose his control in the middle of an action. 1. For an attack, the center of gravity should imperceptibly be shifted to the front foot in order to allow the back leg and foot freedom for the shortest, fastest, and most explosive lunge. 2. For a parry, the center of gravity should be shifted slightly to the rear foot so that the distance is increased and more time is allowed for the parry and riposte movements. Always stay in balance. To throw another kick or punch, Watch out for too much commitment. Training aids. Feel for the proper relation of the feet to each other and to the body while attacking in combination. Retreating and countering. Note their positioning for all types of hits and kicks. Feel yourself in a balanced stance. You should be able to make all your moves at walking pace if necessary. Feel the difference by putting yourself in balanced and unbalanced positions.
100.
Move forward, backward, and sideways. Coordinate with striking and kicking.
101.
Make sure you get speed and power, and above all, a balanced position to keep up or to speedily recover. One of the finest exercises for the development of a sense of balance is undoubtedly not ordinary haphazard skipping, but rather the real thing. First, skip on one foot, holding the other in front of you. Then, skip on the other. After that, skip on alternate feet with each revolution of the rope. Not as simple as it may appear, and work up to the highest possible speed. Keep the skipping going for 3 minutes, the duration of a round. Then rest for a minute and skip for another 3 minutes. 3 rounds of skipping in a variety of ways will form the opening for a good workout.
One important mention or advice or just truth by itself, as important as it is. Yes, there are good days, bad days, or not that good days. We also have days grouped in periods, like for example this one after the holidays. But even with some weight added, which of course I want to reduce, this is not a reason to be sad or to give up, because even if it's not a good day, or let's say like this, a bad day, or at least under what we performed best and we think that's our level, let's say like this, and this is where we belong, or even to improve that. Let's not forget that one day in the past we didn't even dreamed about being at this level of this bad day, let's say like this, or not that good period, short period, a long period, doesn't matter. So it is still a reason to celebrate, to enjoy, or if we are competitive, to get used to it again and to dream even bigger.